great that you all joined us for meeting Maya and Haya today. They are both representing Zochrot. Maya is the director of Zochrot and Haya is the international outreach director. So my name is Irina and I'm an activist in the Palestinian Solidarity Austria, or more specific in IPS, Initiative Palästina Solidarität. And we, together with Marco and Dalia, we decided to have this conversation here today. And it is an honor for us that you accepted and that you joined us. And we really want to have like an open discussion together. And maybe, because we are a small group, also just start with the question whether you already know Zochrot or what you know about Zochrot. And just a very short introduction of yourself and what brought you here, because it would enable us to like get more insight also on our discussion later on. So for today, we planned actually that we have first a short presentation of Zochrot, and then we want to give you the possibility to like give feedback on especially the report, which we put in the center of the discussion today, which is a report on returning from Gaza. So I would like you also to take the space to introduce yourself and maybe also take the time in this context to more in depth introduce what Zochrot is really about. Some people you heard already know about it. And I just want to give one short word in the beginning. So as far as I understood, you focus on remembering the past for the opportunity to give a perspective for the future. And this is done by shaping the future and prioritizing the right to return of the Palestinian people. And maybe you could, because I think this is a key aspect, maybe you could give more concrete version of what you see in this.
Yeah, I'm Haya Warda. I am Zochrot's International Outreach Director. I actually started only recently working in Zochrot, but I know Zochrot from a while back. I'm from a city called Nakba, but originally my family comes from a village called Kufr Biram. It's a village in the north that was depopulated in 1948. And you want?
Sure. So my name is Maya. I'm the director of the organization, and I started actually in the organization volunteering a while back, and then I joined as the community manager. I've been an activist for the past few years. And I also am an activist with Radical Bloc, which is also a group you're welcome to follow. And it's been an intense 2+ years for all of us.
Yeah, I'll introduce Zochrot. So Zochrot is an organization that is dedicated to exposing information about the Palestinian Nakba that started in 1948 and to promoting the right of return. The word Nakba in Arabic means catastrophe, and we use it to refer to the mass displacement that started in 1948 of the Palestinian people. Nearly 750 Palestinian people were forcibly displaced from their homes, from their lands, and were prevented to return to them. Many of them became refugees outside of the newly established state of Israel, and some of them remained as internally displaced people, as I am. And this is an important point because Nakba is not a historical event. this series of events of displacement, of expulsion, of ethnic cleansing is actually an ideology and a system that us in Zochrot find it crucial to examine reality through it. Meaning, we don't refer to Nakba as a historical event. We refer to it as an ongoing process. And for us to really reach decolonization and to reach just reality and a just solution, we cannot bypass it. We need to recognize it, acknowledge that it happened, and acknowledge that it's still the system that is creating and maintaining Jewish supremacy over the land. So a central aspect of Zochrot's work is promoting accountability towards the Nakba. Most Jewish Israelis grow up, and Yiftach and Maya can testify. Most Jewish Israelis grow up knowing nothing about the history of the place, about the history of the people that existed, and have deep and decades-long connection to the space, to the land, to the language, to the culture. And so, we're talking about a society that grows up with into a myth of a land without a people to a people without a land, that it was an empty land that was never inhabited, and the Zionists came and made the desert bloom. And this erasure of the Nakba from the discourse and from the public consciousness it's not neutral, and it goes beyond the borders of the Israeli society, meaning it also reaches the consciousness of the world. And when the Nakba is denied and when it's silenced, then the public discussion and the public in general can tolerate the continuous displacement and the continuous expulsion, and can tolerate genocide, as we see for the past 2.5 years. So, speaking about the Nakba, for us is a way to understand reality and to be able to plan and imagine a different one. So the way Zochrot do it is through educating. So we make information accessible. We organize tours to depopulated Palestinian villages. We collect video testimonies from Nakba survivors, and we publish maps and booklets. And we make this information accessible through different forms of media. We have the I Return app that shows depopulated villages, where you're welcome to download it on your phones. The second main activity that we do is that we promote responsibility. We ask mainly Jewish Israeli society to understand the landscape, to understand what was there before 1948, to understand the link between that to what is happening now in Gaza, in the West Bank, and inside 48 borders. And we do that because we see that understanding, we understand that there's an ethical and political responsibility to challenge the structure that created and are preserving this reality, this injustice. And the third kind of activity that we do is we advocate for redress. We do that especially with the implementation of the right of return. When we say the right of return, we talk about the right of return of Palestinian refugees to Palestine, Israel. This sounds a lot like a far and theoretical and unachievable vision, but this is exactly why we do it, because in order for us to make it a feasible goal, we need to speak about it and break it down to practical actions and practical steps, and debunk myths around it, because there's a lot of myths around it that are created by fear, that are created by ongoing propaganda, and are also created by this, very strong repelling from this concept of a just reality for both people on this land. So I think that is about Zochrot. You want to add anything?
Maybe I'll just add a kind of a personal perspective on Zochrot and things, because I think Haya mentioned before that Jewish Israelis grow up indoctrinated and really brainwashed. And in order to feel part of the society, we are militarized, and it's a norm to join the army. It's a norm to be part of a ultra-militarized society. And you don't see things. They're covered. They were covered by the Zionist regime throughout the years of prior the Nakba of 48, during the Nakba, and after. And I think we didn't put it in the presentation, the picture of Charles Clow, just so that I know if to refer. But let me see. But I just want to say that personally, no, it's not here, but it's okay. For me, part of my going out of Zionism was, one of the steps was a tour with Zochrot, and it was a tour to a park over the beach of Tel Aviv. I grew up in Tel Aviv my whole life, to a liberal society, to a liberal family and everything. But, liberal goes only to some extent. And a place where I would always go to, the beach, a very regular place, very nice, very happy. There is this park of green hills over there. And then one time I went with Zochrot to a tour to Manshia, and we were walking on these green hills, and I realized that I'm walking on a graveyard of a village. The ruins of the village are under me, and they were covered by the municipality. And I think this is something that was really crucial for my eye-opening. And I'm saying this in the context of, it feels, since I'm in Zochrot, I have glasses, but it feels like I put on clearer glasses since I've been exposed to this. It's the same reality. It's hidden, and it's really important. Maybe I'll even clarify. There's some politics of two narratives. This kind of social discourse of two narratives. coexistence and all of that. And I really want to state clearly that we're not in that spectrum of discourse, because it's not two narratives, it's not two truths and, let's get together and discuss. No, it's the same reality, but it was hidden, and it is hidden violently. And this is something really important to stress about what we do in Zochrot, that we uncover the current reality and the connections of all the Palestinian people living in Gaza, the West Bank, in the refugee camps outside of 48 Palestine and in 48 Palestine, because this is the Nakba, the disconnection between all of these communities. And also I want to invite you guys to have more discussion, because we're a small group, so if you want to jump in, if you feel comfortable to, then...
When you say two narratives, I use the word symmetry.
Yes.
So there is no symmetry. If you understand it, there is no symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
You understand the context, the colonial structure.
Yes.
There's also it's true that there's no symmetry, but also the word narrative is very, is not correct here, because when you have military decisions and when you have documentation that is official Israeli documentation, then it's the use of narrative is would be
You had a question?
Since Zochrot is I guess it's a very maybe inside of Israel society, maybe quite a controversial stance, right? Are you confronted with smearing? It's like the system fighting against you, because there's this things like public appearance, right? With tours and this kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So,
There was me and Haya just last week. What do you think they could say about the whole thing?
I don't know.
So I know you had the question for later. We're going to get to it a bit later on, but it's a good question.
I wanted just only to ask, what's the meaning of this war?
It's a really good question. It means remembering in Hebrew in plural feminine form. And I think there's a really important thing that this word shows. I mean, it's very political, but it's also at the current time of where we are at Zochrot in the face of reality. It's kind of an ancient word for us, because we're not about remembering anymore. I mean, remembering was when Zochrot was founded in the beginning, because it was about putting in the space, in the public space, the Nakba, because it didn't exist. I want to give immense credit to Zochrot way before I joined, that they made this word part of the public, to the extent that today extreme right-wing politicians are proud to use this word, that they want to do another Nakba. But going back to Zochrot, it's gone through, we're in a continuous political expansion in a way. We continue growing politically. And I think that we're not only remembering, we're pointing out that the Nakba is ongoing. It's not about remembering the past, and it's also about implementation of the right of return, which is the present and the future. So it's kind of maybe we need to change the name one day, but maybe not.
So I think it's the name that should stay on us, but the core of the work, which connects, the legacy and the current future. As Haya just mentioned, it's not, Nakba is not an event, singularity in history. It's an ongoing process, and not only on a political scale, but also on the social, societal, scale. Palestinians, if you look at their more or less, their geographies, where Palestinians mostly live, West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, 1948, and in the diaspora. The Nakba has and still shapes their own, consciousness, their future, and their political, engagement, whatever. The most, profound, apart from the political, discourse and all what we most crucial thing, which is a living reality for the Palestinians, is this society, or let's say the social tissue fracture. So you have Palestinians who live, let's say, in the West Bank, and they still have relatives in 1948.
Yes.
Now look at the day-to-day, interaction, or the day-to-day realities that both groups need to, which is my case is an example of that, which they face on an everyday basis. Just pure, simple family visit, between the two locations. It's a nightmare, from both sides, not only from those in the West Bank who need permissions and all of this stuff, but also from those who live and enjoy the privilege of having the Israeli passport. It's a nightmare. Apart from those who live in Gaza, for example, they are not even allowed to visit their families in the West Bank, or those in the refugee camps. So this social tissue fracture, is still a living reality. It's not that Nakba happened once and it was over, still shapes the whole life of the Palestinians. And in your case, it's very important, not only to keep the legacy, but also to envision, because without taking these things into account, we can't talk about geopolitical compromises.
Yes.
We can't talk about geopolitical solutions, two states, whatever, But as long as these things are not addressed, we'll have this for the next maybe 100 years. So it will not go away, because it's a living reality, and the Palestinians did not disappear. They did not, extinct. They are still there, and they are still fighting for their rights and for the. So the combination between the legacy, the right of return, and also the current discourse, that's a huge contribution that we are doing.
Yes.
Maybe even to just what you said in numbers, if you look at the number at the bottom, between 5.9 to 7 million Palestinians are refugees, and it's making it officially the largest and longest standing protracted refugee crisis in the world. So it's very much alive for the refugees, both locally, internally displaced, and the ones that are outside of the 48 borders. So.
Exactly, and if you look, for example, the crisis in Syria, so you have Palestinian refugees who were displaced for the third time. So it's an ongoing issue, It's not something that's passé. That's still.
100%.
I have one more question, and it is about Amnesty International, as well as Human Rights Watch, as well as the International Court of Justice. How can we make these truths that they spread or work on more heard, and they regard it as genocide? How can we, as people, as people, make them more?
How can you amplify them?
Amplify them,
It's a good question.
What do you think?
What do you think about it? I mean, I think it's a broad question of how to make activism more effective and focused here. And I don't think we have the answer. I think we have suggestions. First of all, this session here is coming to maybe expose and show information that are rather less known for solidarity groups in Europe. So we do hope that we can reach people like you who are interested and who are active, and to present our information that way to make your decisions and activism more informed. The main ask that we have is to not be afraid to talk about big things like the right to return. It's a very crucial element of activism, of radical change of a structure, because sometimes we get stuck in pragmatism and finding the solution that will land on the biggest number of ears, of listening ears. But maybe it's a question how we break this cycle and we actually do let ourselves think about a more radical change that we want to see, and ask ourselves what is the system that we are asking to replace what is now existing. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I would like to say something there. You used the word Nakba, and actually after the starting of the attack, the 8th of October 23, I mean, not immediately, but it came to my mind actually, the Nakba, it's not it's a genocide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the process of genocide, it's even before the 48, but the process of genocide to erase, to annihilate and to destroy culturally, physically, economically. I mean, it started actually in the state of Israel, very sure, the genocide start, to erase these people. So it's a genocide, long process, and it can come to a kind of escalation in 67. They're able to accelerate it, more Palestinians out. Now in this attack, which is not a war. So the genocide for 7th of October, it's even not correct, because the genocide is a long process. I think it's correct to say genocide, not Nakba. Nakba is like catastrophe, it's like Shoah. And also for the Jewish Shoah, I use the word genocide actually, not Shoah. Shoah is not correct. The genocide of the Jews, this is correct.
I think for me, maybe a more kind of how I see it and how scholars and historians see it is ethnic cleansing. And I think the genocide is one of the peak worst things that have happened, part of this ongoing ethnic cleansing. Because what has been happening in Gaza is to an extent worse than what happened in 48 in the sense of the killing of the numbers. It does not mean that it's disconnected. It's part of the same ethnic cleansing, which is done by the settler colonial society, which colonized Palestine. So that's how I see it. It's not to say that...
Genocide is not articulate for cleansing, ethnic cleansing, and not for killing. It's to erase the people.
I think, look, genocide is, let's just put things in sorry for personal coming in so without your permission. No, let's just put things into, into their places. Genocide is a legal term, let's just put it this way, and I will not, juggle around with these legal terms, but what you have said hits actually the nail on the head, which is it's a settler colonial project. And the logic, according to academia, of course, the logic of the settler colonialism is the evasion or the elimination of the natives. This, which is a process and a structure, which is not a one-time event. But the logic, and if you look at the logic of elimination, it can actually have different modalities. One of them is ethnic cleansing, which happened actually in 1948. What happened, ethnic cleansing happens actually forcibly. It's not violently. It's not something that is.
And it happened before 1948
Absolutely.
by buying the land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second thing would be actually this physical destruction, which can amount to genocide, of course. The third thing would be actually assimilation, which is you know, the Israelization of the whole demography and geography, so that not physically, you know, but let's say legally, epistemologically, destroy the natives. So I would be very careful. You know, Nakba is Nakba, and I don't think it amounts to genocide. It is there was, or there has been massive killings, you know, culminating into massacres in like Deir Yassin, like in Pantura and different other places. But it does not amount to a genocide, because genocide, if we want to be more correct, you know, is a legal term more or less, you know, so and it's still debated, you know. But I would say elimination as part of the whole settler colonial project, which can take more different modalities like ethnic cleansing, genocide, physical destruction, and assimilation. All of this, so just the good things.
I don't know how you see it, but I'm still very curious on what your daily work looks like, and to give you the possibility to like present it in more detail.
Yes, sure. I just want to continue on the question that you asked. I think that an important point to add to this answer is that a lot of the discussions that happen around Palestine are focusing on ending the occupation, ending the apartheid, humanitarian aid to Gaza, and these are, even though these are very important calls and causes, they provide a bandage, and they do not address the root of all these injustices. So this is also like, this is a main ask that we have for the international solidarity movement, to switch the focus from the from the symptoms to the root cause of it. So to just explain what we are seeing now, there was a conversation here about ethnic cleansing or genocide. When I think of Nakba, the most accurate description is erasure. There was a very clear decision and implementation of erasure, of moving out people, as much Palestinian people as possible, replacing them with Jewish people, and erasing every remembrance, every trace of Palestinian existence in these places. And this is, of course, to be used as a way to, claim connection of the Jews to the land, and to feed on the narrative that it was an empty land. But as we are seeing, Palestine was inhabited with communities that had very long and rich and prosperous connection to the land. It was made of villages and cities, and it had rich cultural lives. I think we don't have the picture here, but there were concerts of famous singers that came to sing in Palestine. And so these are pictures from Jaffa, from before 48, and the last picture is from post-destruction. The focus on Jaffa here is because many families, many of the people that were expelled from Jaffa sought refuge or were placed in Gaza. And the people who we see now living in Gaza are refugees from Jaffa. So yeah, it's a very close connection, and just to give like an idea of how close of a connection that is, Palestine is a very small place, and the distance from Jaffa to Gaza is very small, but to think about it now with the genocide it's really hard to grasp. But we can listen to the. Can we turn the volume?
Maybe you can also. It's the loudest here.
I think it comes through the projector, this is why it's not.
Do you hear it well enough, or no?
We can read it.
Do you hear it well?
We can read it.
Okay.
Otherwise, because there's also the.
Maybe can I say something about this? Sure. So we look in the genocide in the beginning, in October 23 and after, we were all shocked, and we kept thinking, what are we supposed to do now? Because we deal with really big ideas, and we usually hold on to hope, and we were faced with the most horrible atrocities, and we didn't even know how bad it's gonna get. So Zochrot had a very direct, almost immediate, it's not a shift, but it's a focus on Gaza. And Gaza has always been, kind of a word that people are really, because of the humanitarian crisis and because of the continuous attacks of Israel on Gaza, everyone knows Gaza. But we wanted to focus on it, both from an immediate need, because a lot of people in Zochrot are activists, and they were on the streets every day, every week, just doing that. But also to continue showing the importance of our vision in the context of Gaza. So this project is actually a podcast that came within this past 2 years. It's a series of 4 episodes. It's in Hebrew, so only Iftach here maybe, or I don't know if you understand, can hear it. But we brought a few excerpts here with English translations, because it's really interesting how we managed to focus on Gaza, but keeping the bigger picture. So this is an excerpt for that. Should I continue to the next excerpt? Or that was Yara Garable. She's a Yafoian woman, and she has roots in Gaza. She discovered her dad is from Gaza only later on in her life, so just for the context. So she speaks about the distance, the emotional and physical distance from Gaza. To your question, I'll try to answer, because it's a difficult one. I think as we name the society as it is a settler colony, settler colonies are always an act of violence. Like the foundation of a settler colony is an act of violence, because it has to ethnically cleanse the space to be a settler colony. It has to replace the indigenous person. That is an act of violence, period. It sounds academic, but it's not, because we have mandatory military service. We are taught that our most immediate enemy is a Palestinian. That is the immediate enemy. In our conscience of Israelis, when we are told refugee camp, such as Jenin refugee camp, my immediate subconscious context is a violent place from which people are going to come out and do terror attacks. That's in how we are media, education, just, and again, I grew up in a liberal, really in Tel Aviv. It's a liberal place. We have the Pride Parade and everyone is, pride about, it's a liberal place. But I haven't met an Arab person until very late in my life because it's a bubble, because it is kept a bubble. Mandatory military service, I also sadly went to the military because I wasn't politically aware at that time. You go to the military because you want to be part of the society. So, and they make it's the army of the people for the people of the army. It's just, you go to the army, it's what you do. And one of the first questions people ask is, hey, where were you in the army? Oh, I know your brother, it's like these human connections, and these human connections are stronger than thinking about the Palestinian as a human. So it's a very much in your daily life and also in the bigger, Zionist vision. I hope that kind of...
Yes. And you said before you want to talk about the root causes and not about the symptoms, and I find that very straightforward. And how would you name the root causes? What are the root causes of what's happening right now?
The current system that is in the basis of it lies the Zionist ideology. As long as it operates, this is the root cause, because it operates in a way that it ensures Jewish supremacy over the land, over the resources, and with that comes the confiscation of lands, the displacements, the preventing refugees from returning. So that is it. That is the root cause. The way to tackle it is more complicated, I think, because it requires us to think and plan and imagine a different structure and a system that we can say that it would be equal, that it would ensure equal rights to all people living on the land, but it needs a practical planning of a political, societal, economical structure, and that is what we aim to do with the Return from Gaza document as a starter, as an initiative that would lay the ground on this work, on starting a discussion around a practical plan of a different future.
Maybe even just a very specific thing. I talked before about the Jenin refugee camp, and you can see in the map, it's kind of blurry a bit, but you can see Jenin in the middle, rather in the middle up. Where do you see the refugees came from to this refugee camp? Mm-hmm. From Haifa. So for the Israeli conscience, thinking about a refugee camp as a place that is, somehow out of the reality, and it's a place where people, and looking at the map and thinking, oh, it's a refugee camp. Like, it really, I cannot explain how much it takes a switch in the mentality of the Israeli to understand what that means, that it's a refugee camp. That for me is a root cause. That for me, understanding that they came from Haifa to Jenin, that is understanding why the right of return has to be implemented. That is understanding why it has to be, rights for everyone, equal rights from the river to the sea, no two-state solution, no separation of the lands, because how can you separate? How can you do that when the rights, the basic rights that are enshrined in international law are not being kept? So that to me is root causes and not the band-aids. Even a two-state solution is a band-aid. And that's something that we also don't accept politically.
Exactly, it's actually this distinction between two paradigms, the Western, way of thinking. They always talk about conflict management.
Exactly.
And this is why they talk about two-state solution or whatever, confederation. But if you're really interested in solving the whole conflict, which is conflict resolution, the other paradigm, you have to address these things. It's not only about human catastrophe; it's the whole structure that is rigged. So it's the whole structure has to be dismantled. Not only for the sake of Palestinians, and if you want to achieve equality, if you want to achieve a just solution, the whole structure has to be dismantled.
Yes.
Otherwise, things will replicate and things will, you have only cosmetic, solutions which are not addressing the whole thing.
Yes.
So, and this is the way to go. Absolutely.
Do you want to continue?
Yes.
What I see, it's in the root, the Jewish supremacy feeling based in the Bible, even on non-believers, and how they discover and conquest land. It's the same thing now in South Lebanon, but it was in 1948. So they want to have this, the planet, and they know they don't need these people. If they're running away, okay. If not, they need to be killed because, and also there have been also fabrics and Busunternehmen and I don't know. There have been a train system that could travel without borders to Damascus or so it was freedom. It was a kind of freedom. And this needed to be killed and the same and made out of this kaput. And the same, if they conquer now South Lebanon, so they have their idea, and it's a trick. They say, yes, we are warning, we don't want to kill these people living in the big houses, we are warning them. So it's a system to conquer, to warn, and it was 48 the same, to warn, and then they are running away or not, or they are getting killed, even if you're reading Ilan Pape, they throw bombs or things in houses while people were sleeping inside. So it's the same neglect that there's other people who are suffering, and it's a supremacy, and it has to do, I am sure, with the religious teaching also. And I, as a Christian, I know it must have been good before, but not after Jesus came. So
I'm not an expert in that field, or I'm just an activist, but in my opinion, being a person who lives in Israel and a secular person, I think religion is being utilized for the Zionist project. From watching films, reading books, listening to Ilan Pape. Wow, we should all watch, there's a film by Maya Zinstein about evangelism in the United States, the evangelistic lobby. It is crazy how much anti-Semitism is the power of Zionism. So I think the religious reasonings are being utilized by the current government at an extreme. They've always been there, but to be honest, the earlier settlers of Palestine, the Jewish settlers, were either secular or religious that were told you have to let go of your religion, like the old Shtetl Jew from places like Austria, let go of that identity, become the strong tzabar, the strong new identity of the Jew who's working the land, become like a Palestinian, basically.
There were Jews, there were Palestinian Jews.
For sure.
So many.
For sure, yes. Most of them were religious, to be honest. I have ancestry from before 48, and they were religious Jews from Khalil, Hebron, from Tiberias and stuff. But it's the religious aspect is, I think, extremely now used by the right fascist government throughout all of Israel's history, but now it's really to the extreme. And yeah, people say, this is our land. We belong here because it's been our land 2,000 years ago. So it is a religious reason in a way, but it's not perceived as that by...
Maybe just saying with this question, because I have the feeling that Jewishness is not identified in the context of Zionism so much as a religion, but that it is rather seen as something that you are born into, because this is the way how you get access to settler colony. So it's like if your father or your mother or your grandfather or your grandmother, if they were Jewish, then you're allowed to be considered as part of the settler colonial. So in some way, I think that the way how Zionism frames Jewishness is more of the way how also the opponents of Jewish people, like how the way how with an anti-Semitic view, how they were labeled, that it was overtaken by Zionism to identify people who they say as Jewish. Like for the Nazis, when they expelled and in the beginning, or at least when they expelled Jewish people or robbed their belongings, they would say, you're Jewish not because you're like religious, but because you had a mother or father who was Jewish. So in some way, Zionism adopted this view of Jewishness, and I think it's nothing really to do with religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to add something. That there's a very fluid way of using reasonings. Like, I think that there was an extremely smart way of keeping the religious part to the end. By the time that colonizers will use it, the land would be already emptied, and then those who are coming will be accepting of the fact that, we're here because we have the connection to this land, a religious connection to this land. But the first settlers that came, they came with the notion that they are people who are superior and who will do the land better if they colonized it. And it's the same mentality of colonizers in other places, because they saw the Palestinians, they had exchange with them, you know. They had, lived in kibbutzim, and at no point did they think that it was an empty land. But there was a strong belief that they would make a better place out of this spot.
Basically, if you look at the process of settler colonialism per se, you know, at the most beginning, you need more or less an idea, which is called an impetus. This idea could be a religious idea, or could be, you know, a self-image of, like, you know, the French, when they said, okay, we have this mission, saying that this is our mission, you know. The Zionists, they used, of course, religious, artifacts and religious, impetus in order to mobilize for the idea. Although they how to say that, they were not religious per se. On the contrary, for them, religion was something that is that has shaped the whole Jewish. Although religion was the only factor or element that kept the Jewish, communities alive throughout the.
But the movement is not Jewish.
It's
not a religious movement.
It's not a religious movement. They used, of course, religious impetus in order to mobilize for the idea. Now, and this is basically natural. If you want to mobilize for something like any other idea, let's say nationalism. Nationalism is built on myths, more or less. So you look at, you invent. If you don't have myths, you invent them in order to. The same, now the only departure, is that the Zionists, they envisioned a new kind of Jewishness. They wanted this, strong, athletic, militarized, Jew. The Jews, nobody denies that the Jews had a deep connection to the land, so because the whole thing started there, the whole religion started there, the whole, unfoldment of the Jewish, of Jewishness happened also there. Still, like people like, Maimonides, Moshe ben Maimon, his grave is still in Tiberias, so they have a strong connection. Nobody, doubts this. The only thing is that there's a difference between having a spiritual or whatever connection, to a land, and going and even living in that land. That's okay. The moment you start, ethnically cleanse and claim this land for your own, and try to or actively, ethnically cleanse the land and expel its rightful people, out of it, and claim it for your own. That's the problem. That's where the problem begins. Regardless if it's a religious or secular or whatever, thing. So that's the. And I would be very, very careful. Judaism is not an exception. You have the same, ways of thinking in Christianity. Look at how how they colonized, the modern world. Let's say America, Africa, and the whole world. Islam, it's also the same. You have all of these. So I would be very careful, because
I think the colonization is more connected to European colonization. It's not about it being a Jewish. It happens to be Zionism happens to be Jewish in the essence, but it's in the end it's European colony of Europeans.
But it was also the Holocaust, and for America it was the persecution of the free churches, evangelical, to run away from the Catholic Church, to start in America, so it started.
That's the period
So maybe just to add, Benjamin asked with the religious component. The religious component really was not there from the beginning. Not Herzl, all this milieu was not, they come from really secular, completely nationalistic, and actually from this tradition of German nationalism. Like Irina maybe mentioned, but the Holocaust, the issue of anti-Semitism, not the anti-Semitism was really kind of impetus because they rejected, they did not find their way, so they want to liberate themselves in a way. To overcome this and to take the Judaism and to naturalize it, to neutralize, to make it a bit more normal, nationalism. This is the way to make it more normal, Judaism, nationalism, and then the Zionists, and to move to another place, Uganda or Palästina is better because it's more clear. You have this argument, taboo, לא טאבו, כאילו קושאן.
קושאן, טאבו.
You have it in the Bible, so we do not believe in God, but He gave us the
I would make, because I think we have discussed for quite a long time, and it is very important and interesting, but I think because it's already past 8, so maybe we can focus on your recent publication that you have, which is focusing on Gaza, and with this points very strongly on the situation, as you mentioned before, that we have at the moment. So
yes, sure. Maybe as a transition, this is the photo of Manshia. One of you mentioned it here. I don't remember who. This is where I would walk on the park without knowing what I'm walking on. So in the 70s only this was covered, or even later, I don't remember exactly, but it was ruins for a really long time, for a few decades after 1948, and then the park covered it, and these are images, we can find parallels between images from Gaza now and the genocide in 48. That's why I think it's an important transition. I'm just skipping here, I don't know, 1 second. Haya, did you want to say something about this before I go to... Okay. So maybe just to talk about... I'll open this up, but then you'll read it. So you know what? I'll put this one so that you don't read what it's written. So during the 2 years plus that have been going on with the genocide, since we started focusing on Gaza prominently, we also have online tours which you could watch. They were recorded from Jaffa to Gaza, or from Gaza to Jaffa, and it's online. You could watch it. But part of the projects that we did was a working group made out of Palestinians and Jewish people, not these women who are Palestinian refugees. This is the village of Ikrit, by the way. This was from 2014. Ikrit is a displaced village, and they have a beautiful church there. And they do some services sometimes, and they do actual actions of return. People, they have a very strong community of Palestinian refugees that go there and do just kind of physical actions of returning. They even had some people sleep there for I don't know how long, but young community that slept there.
It's in Galilee?
Yes, in a very beautiful area. So it's not the group, that was my point. This group was a working group that the point was, first of all, to learn and unlearn, which is unlearning everything we think we know and relearning what we should know. Researching everything that has to do with Gaza district, so not Gaza Strip. For this context, I want us to break apart in our minds the strip, the Gaza Strip. This is a man-made geographical area. Gaza, maybe it says so here. Let me look at this map, if you could see. Yeah, you could see it here in the map on the left of the routes of displaced refugees. Gaza was a district. This is the district. The strip is really small compared to this. The strip is man-made by Zionism after 67, basically. So the district was in 48. In 48, sorry. In 67, there were other things happening. But the districts were open, and there were relations between Jaffa and Gaza, and the working group was really trying to find the connections between Gaza district, the refugees that are now in the strip, and their original homes where they were displaced from, and what would return from Gaza look like. Now, this is the most important thing, because during the history of the Gaza Strip, people are always talking about very immediate humanitarian solutions, because there's horrible attacks on Gaza, horrible wars on Gaza, and now the genocide. And this creates thousands, hundreds of thousands victims, redisplaced people, people who are killed, and people who have absolutely no homes. And it is not to suggest that it is not important to reconstruct and for people to be able to return to their homes in Gaza, But we suggest something that is further on. We suggest that the refugees in Gaza should return to their original homes as a just solution to the situation. We say, let's not go back to October 6th. Let's not go back to anywhere that was in recent history. It's not even about going back. It's a very important thing. It's not about going back to when there were no settler society, because settler society is there. We need to accept that. We don't want to ethnically cleanse anyone anymore. Not us Jewish people and not the Palestinians who are sharing this vision. We want to create a shared future that is based on just, and that is with the right of return. So, as it says here, there's three kind of key ideas for imagining, and I'm not saying only imagining, I would say also implementing return. It's not only nostalgia. It's not about thinking, as I said, what it was. And it's not possible. A lot of the land in current Israel that Palestinian refugees would return to is empty. A lot of it is JNF parks. A lot of it is military zones. A lot of it is nature reserves. A lot of it is just empty. Like your... yes. The few 3 buildings exist, but there's no one who's living there. So, sorry? Yes, Park Canada is a very famous one. There's a lot of places that could be really easily people could go back to. But it's obvious that it's not going to be the same as before 48, even if the land is empty or if someone, a Jewish person, is occupying currently a specific house of a Palestinian. There are solutions that we can find, but the solutions have to be offered by the refugees themselves. They're the ones who should be leading this idea. It's not the settler society, and it's not the international world. It's not Trump and his idea of the Riviera. It's not you guys, maybe only you, Abdallah. But it's nobody except the refugees themselves. They should be leading this, and this should include compensation. It should include going back to their homes within the way that it is possible. It requires decolonization. That means also regime change. It means we cannot stay with the current regime. What we have is not a democracy. Don't let anyone sell you that Israel is a democracy. It cannot be a democracy when it's a settler society that is occupying another people. Not only in 67, also in 48. There is a difference between being a Palestinian person with an Israeli citizenship and a Jewish person with an Israeli citizenship. This is not a democracy. But it means moving to a regime that is different. It's a transition. And that is what the document is also doing, and also offering practical ideas of how to do it. I saw you had a question. For example, I don't know if it's here. I think it isn't. No. For example, there is a few, or in the document, you can read it also. I can send it to you and you can send it on. There is a few examples there of where return would be to and what it would look like. There is an urban return, rural return, and a few other more as an idea. Now, the document was created by this group as kind of a final product. But what is interesting about this document is it's a live document. It means it's just the beginning. It's a certain document, I think it's about 20-something pages, if I remember correctly, but it invites people, also you guys, to give feedback on this document, because we believe in the power of feeding it with more knowledge and information. We're starting first with refugees. We want refugees to give their feedback on the document. It means the core principles of how we see return, but also the practicalities of how we see it happening. And then we're going to go to experts that are maybe architects, intellectuals, historians that could give feedback. And then we're going to the wide audience. So you would also be welcome to give feedback. And this is something very beautiful, I think, that it's the idea that it's a shared document. It doesn't belong to any one person. Yes, you had a question.
You said Israel wouldn't be a democracy?
It is now, yeah.
It is now. What would it then be? Or what is it then?
What is it? It's a really good question. It's fascist, that's for sure. Now it's even fascist to some Jewish people who are resisting the regime, who are dissidents, who are resisting the settler colony and its idea. You could see it in different things that are happening. But like I think really, like honestly, just kind of in a way common logic to me. If there are the same people living in the same space, but I mean it's not the same people. If there's a few people living in the same space and some have more rights than the others, I don't see that as a democracy.
People can call it ethnocracy.
Yes.
Ethnocracy,
because the ethnos is really so important there.
Yeah.
The occupation is actually it's a military rule, more than 50 or 58 years, I think, which is very clear what it is. It's really occupation. It's apartheid.
Totalitarianism. Totalitarianism.
Yeah.
There are different ways to identify it. It's you can say that it's an apartheid because it really implements different rules on different people based on their nationality. It creates different groups of Palestinians and gives rights or obligations based on this, based on the group that they belong to. So, me as a Palestinian citizen of Israel, I have different rights than a Palestinian who lives in the West Bank, but I don't have the same right as Maya, who is a Jewish citizen of Israel. But it's definitely a totalitarian regime, and it's definitely a fascist one, based on the way that it implements its policies and the deterioration of freedoms, freedom of expression of Israelis as well, not only Palestinians. So yeah.
Yeah, even now with the recent attack on Iran, Radical Bloc is a group that I'm part of. So 3 days after it started, we went to protest, which we were 10 people. There were 30 cops, 10 journalists, maybe even 20 journalists. The protest ended within 5 minutes. We just took out the signs, and again, it's not new anymore. It feels it's been like this for 2 years, and it's just I think since October 7th, I feel that it's just being exposed. It was always there, but it's like the masks are off now, you know? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if you want to go more in depth into the document that you have prepared. I guess that you already proposed the main ideas, just so you have in there. So do you want to comment specifically on them? Like I noted down, I think it is very important to say that you have the core principle that it comes from like the Palestinians themselves to propose how to change society, how to get, how to implement justice. And I think the second part was something that I cannot read anymore. I'm sorry. But do you want to comment on these ideas? Do you think that there is something important that needs to be added on? Because we heard it's a living document.
And maybe it's important to stress that what is offered in the document is guidelines, because we cannot, first of all, it's in the context of Gaza, but obviously we would call for return for all of Palestinian refugees, for all of Palestine. But the idea is that it's guidelines that could be implemented in different ways. And again, it's the refugees from each place that they will have different solutions that they want to bring according to what the space looks like. Each space looks a bit differently where you return to. So it's interesting because I feel like this visual, I've been thinking about it for a while, about a visual that would be able to trace back each refugee to their original homes. There's a lot of Palestinian platforms, online platforms that I think give different things, but I don't think there's, a one whole visual that exists out there. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there is. we have information about a lot of places, and as you mentioned, Palestine Remembered is also a very good source, but there's no one place. It's so much information, and it's about research and about trying to figure out.
So you don't have a central database?
Not for all of. No, we have specific projects we've done in the past, like Ilajun and Rabasiya and specific.
Because I think the UN has something similar, something like this. They have a database of.
Badil as well.
Yeah,
there are some databases that I don't know one database that has all the information, because it's a huge amount of refugees to map. And
what do you think is your role in this context, living here and being part of the solidarity movement based not in Palestine? But I'm asking, what is your role in promoting the implementation of return and promoting the acknowledgement of the fact that the genocide in Gaza is part of the ongoing Nakba?
I mean, yeah, it's just an idea. Somehow it is connecting to what you said. It's not like this is our main responsibility, but I think if we take the main idea of Zochrot, like remembering, I think something that you said is very important, which people also in Europe need to know, that it is really that there is enough space in Palestine for all people, and that it is about rights and equal rights and the participation in society. And it's not like the place is filled, and if people return, there will be another ethnic cleansing. That's not what the idea of the right of return is about, but it's about the right to restore the basic human rights of Palestinian people. And I think this is a very important message that you give, and that a lot of people in Europe don't really know. So that, as you mentioned, that the places are just kept empty. They ruined everything, and now it's kept empty. That's also something where you see in Lebanon now, that the places, the place is destroyed, and people will not be able to return because the fields are just destroyed. They will not be able to do farming there or anything. So I think it is very important to point out, yes, this was done before, but the place to return is there, and it is not about it's not a geographic question, it's not about space, it's about basic human rights for the Palestinian people. So I think this is the main...
So maybe this leads us to education. I think and I don't know if I want to ask you guys to go to Palestine, because I feel like, you can if you want. I'm not sure if this is the solution, because I think there's also the role of Europeans within this that is, in a way, even separate. It's something, I think there's other things that you can do beyond the education, but it definitely starts with education of understanding the space and understanding what is the media telling us and what is actually going on. But I think speaking with your representatives in government is a very important thing, which only you guys can do. That is a major direct responsibility of the people who are citizens of Austria and can do that, and any other place in Europe. And I think this even has a direct effect on us. I can say maybe, I don't know if you wanted to ask that or not, but we were recently defunded by Germany, and that is because we didn't want to, they asked us to basically not say we're against colonization. They didn't want us to say Israel is not a Jewish democratic state. They wanted us to agree that Israel is a Jewish democratic state and everything is okay. We're not calling for decolonization and all of that. And we did not agree to do that. And we were defunded by Germany as a state, we had a meeting with the ambassador, and he asked us, please say these things. And we were like, no, we're sticking to our values, because it's not only values, it's the way we want to live in this space. And then we lost funds because of that. And I'm not saying this only because we need money, but I'm saying this also in the sense that there is direct link between the states in Europe and the civil society that is actually resisting the genocide and the ongoing Nakba in Palestine. It's direct. There is direct effect. The fact that Trump completely backs the government in Israel right now has a direct effect. So this is something, there really is a role for people who are not living and part of the society in Palestine.
Just also to give a short answer on your question of what could we do in Europe, I think on one hand, yes, I think our struggles are of course connected, so I guess it's very important, and thank you for the invitation also to give feedback on your ideas from the different sides. To just make visible what the research you're doing and the concrete action you're doing is. But you also mentioned that aside your work in Zochrot, you're also an activist, and I guess that's also something that combines us. And I just wanted to point out to the next demonstration that we have, which will be on the 27th of June, so at 14 o'clock at Räumerplatz. And there we put as one of the main aspects, I just say it in German, but I can translate it, sofortiger Ausstieg aus dem Assoziationsabkommen oder Assoziierungsabkommen der EU mit Israel. So a real concrete question for boycotting. So against the strategic association between the European Union and Israel. And I think it is not much, but in the way how the EU and how Europe and how Austria is supporting the genocide, with weapons, with political support, with all that stuff. It's a quite concrete question that we can put in the center to also speak to society. And I think it's always the most important that we speak to society, and there I guess it is also a very important aspect to learn from what you research and also communicate this to society. Because people here in the room or activists, they know about all the atrocities and all the problems, everything that is happening in Palestine, but society still wants to be blind. Yes. And so I think if we have quite concrete questions that we ask, and this is also something that brought the apartheid regime in South Africa to a fall. And of course we know that there is not like justice between all people in South Africa at the moment as well. But it's just, we need to take first steps and address very concrete questions. And that I think the way how you do it with putting the right to return in the middle is in the concrete action in Palestine a very helpful tool to do this. So thank you.
I have an idea, maybe it's come to my mind, I don't want to forget it. Did you think about like make a tour, maybe in this in Jaffa, which I did it actually with Omar, I remember, but to do it in Zoom, internationally, like in all Europe, to make like the people share it, and then they feel like they are going in Jaffa, or they're going in this park near the sea, or give it also pictures. And so maybe there is a place for this kind of virtual tour that European, maybe US very important actually, what's going on there regarding Israel and awakeness from this reality. So maybe you can do something with.
It's actually something that we've been thinking about.
We do, just before you say, we have a virtual tour that Omar does. It's more presentation, and then Haya, you wanted to say.
Yeah, we're more thinking about the a visual presentation of the space that we are talking about. So to make the connection between the viewer who is located in Europe, we think that the physical element of it, a physical connection when you see the place and when you see what the information that is presented is talking about and is referring to. There's something else that is communicated through that. So yeah, it's something that is on the table. We are considering. Yeah.
Now Zoom, like this
That we're there physically.
connected Europe, like people, like communities in Europe, in Berlin, in Hamburg. You know, there are communities that, like here, in Tyrol, and there are a group. So so it gives kind of togetherness.
Yes.
That we are in Palestine, and we see the history, and we experience this in real life.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Is there like some open questions in the room or something that you want to say? Because I see people start leaving, and we have already talked like for 2 really interesting hours. But is there something in the room, a question that is left, or something that you want to like address us that is important? You also mentioned the challenges that you have. We have only bypassed them, but I think it's very clear that within the Israeli society, an organization like Zochrot is confronted with a lot of challenges. So maybe for the end, you want to give us like also an idea what you would need from us.
Yes. Unlearn. First of all, I learned that word within Zochrot, and it's a lot related to unlearning Zionism for my perspective, but it's not only Zionism. There is here a few books that you can take a photo that I recommend you to read. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Go also to Zochrot's website. There is an immense amount of resources on our website. We have the app, the iReturn app. You can use it also from far away. It both gives the opportunity for people in Palestine to navigate, but also outside of Palestine to kind of reconnect, especially for Palestinian refugees, with their localities, with their homes. And we have a lot of resources on our website, really. Online tours, I mean, different idea than what you suggested, but we have that. And we're resisting from within, but you should continue resisting from outside. And this is just a few photos of things we've done in the past 2 years. The people here are learning so much from Zochrot. Even though I'm part of the team, I'm an activist who's using the resources that Zochrot gives me to be able to understand deeper what I'm doing. And as you can see, it's really affecting the language of activism. This is not the average activist calling to oppose the ongoing Nakba from within the police vehicle. It's really people who were lucky to be educated within Zochrot's kind of ways. And I think in a very practical sense, you can also join. We have a lot of events that are online. If you somehow come to Palestine, you should check out if we have a tour or an activity that's physical. And yes, we also need financial support. It doesn't mean that you people here should be supporting us financially, but if you believe in what we do, help us with that, because we're being defunded and we're also not able to receive a lot of funds to begin with. We have a lot of pressure. Civil society space is shrinking as we speak. Laws are being passed, fascist laws are being passed, and we don't know how long we have as an organization, but also as a movement. So as long as we can be empowered, this also means with funds, and this is really important. In the end, this is what keeps us alive and sustained. Yeah, and really we have a lot of online events. You should definitely join. And
you can join as subscribers to our newsletter and be informed in activities that we host. And you can also join as as monthly supporters as much as you can. But the important thing here is the movement of information. One of the things that that you need from us is this information that we are making available, that is very crucial to informing your activism and to for it to be part of forming coalitions that are return focused. So we know that putting pressure on your representatives is one thing and voting is one thing, but also grassroots actions is even more important. Building coalitions with other solidarity circles and speaking the language of return in them, making it present and making it central is something that really shapes the consciousness around the struggle.
Thank you. Just here you can subscribe to our newsletter, support us, and here you can find resources and so many things. So this is our website. Thank you. Thank you so much.